right, welcome to Releasing Music and Event Production here at the Mornington Peninsula Industry Summit. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Jane Gazzo, and I'm a music journalist. And these are your fabulous panellists for this particular panel. We have Gerard from Premier Artists. Gerard? Frontier Touring. How did I get that so wrong?
It was 20 years ago.
He used to book my band. He used to book my band when he was at Premier. Sorry, Frontier Touring. And a correct title, Gerard?
I just work there.
Yeah, he just works there. The dude who works at Frontier Touring. one of the best touring agents in the country. Clint Hyndman. To some of you, he's the drummer from Something for Kate. To the others, he's a local venue proprietor, Wowee Zowee, Loosie's Diner, Humdinger, and Slim's Hot Pizza. Not enough venues in the local area, Clint.
What's going on?
I'd like to welcome Kwin Taylor. Asia runs the bookings at Lulie Tavern in Collingwood, and he's also Wildflower Artist Management, who's having a lot of success at the moment with Queenie. Congrats. And local hero / local boy done good, Arron Mawson of Legless Records, Stiff Richards, Split System. What else? Not enough bands.
There are a few others.
A few others. Don't want to give them a plug?
Nah.
Great to have you here, and a nice local contingent too. So give a round of applause to our panellists. All right, releasing music. First question I'm going to ask, anyone can take it. What has changed in terms of releasing music in the last 5 to 10 years, guys? What have we seen? What major changes have you seen?
I can't speak to what has changed because I wasn't releasing any music 10 to 15 years ago. But releasing music today is really expensive. I'm sure that it probably was then too, but I think Mawson can probably speak more to this. But we are currently releasing one of our main artists' first album, and yeah, the expense is crazy, and to get a label interested is really tough work because there are so many amazing artists out there. So we've actually finally engaged one, which is awesome, and they're helping us out. But yeah, it can be really tricky recording the music, mixing the music, getting it mastered. Like, there's lots of things to think about, and yeah, you need to figure out how you're going to get that cash to release it, I guess.
Wow, okay. Arron, how do you get around those things running Legless Records with a ton of local artists?
Well, yeah, I think the expense thing is definitely a thing, but there's a positive side to, I think the independent realm has sort of elevated over the last few years as well, where through the internet and accessibility, there's actually the opportunity for a lot of people to be able to do things themselves. So there is the negative of the expenses, but the positive of, people being able to do things themselves and use community to drive sales and stuff like that. So there is like pros and cons, I guess.
Right.
So I feel like there was a lot of reliance on like bigger industry stuff to grab onto things, where now bands can actually put stuff out themselves and have quite a bit of success. So
yeah, what have you seen from speaking from that
well,
grassroots level?
that's why I started a label, and that's
tell us,
yeah.
because we got kids here who want to be inspired by you starting your own label.
So I felt quite defeated by that, reaching out to like labels, and to be able to, every time I reached out to anyone, I couldn't get emails back from people. Felt like no one had any respect for what we were doing, and I was like, I feel like I can do this myself. And it is quite a burden to take on, but with community and building something that's organic, you can actually use each other's momentum and team up with friends. And if you can, put on gigs, manage to make that money, and pay for it yourself, you can actually succeed in releasing things without having to rely on those bigger people in the industry. So.
Did you just collect money from playing gigs in order to release your own music?
It's a multitude of things, like selling T-shirts at shows, putting gigs on with friends. You start small, like you don't have to produce heaps at the start. You press a record or get some stuff up on Spotify and just start ticking along, and you build an audience, build a community, put more gigs on, actually perfect your craft, gigging a lot and like actually getting out there. A lot of people think they have to put thousands of dollars into marketing straight away and like jump up that step above where they are. It's like spend 6 months a year, get out, tour, play with friends, and build that community, and it's surprising. It feels like you're pushing shit uphill for a little. Sorry, language.
That's all right.
But it does. It feels like you're struggling for a bit, but after commitment and time put in, things start moving, and you get better at what you're doing. You learn the industry. So, yeah.
Clint, you deal with a lot of bands. Pass the mic
Sorry.
to Clint, thanks. We're getting more mics. But what changes have you noticed? You deal with a lot of emerging talent. You're in an established band yourself. What's different now?
It seems that the art of the album's gone out the window. Like it used to be about, you'd get a band together and you'd have 20 songs and then you'd put an album together of 10 songs. And the sad thing that I've seen is that, it's become, music's just become shortened and that, that whole thing has died a little bit. But then with the resurgence of vinyl and so on, that seems to have brought back the art of it. So I don't know, I've seen it change a lot over the years. It's been 30 years of doing it. And I was lucky enough early on when we started, we'd record our music, put it on a tape, spend an hour before the gig dubbing tapes, and then play the show, and then sell them for $5 at the show. And that was lucky. And then luckily for us, back in the day, in that whole sweeping of, when major labels tried to sweep up all these bands, one of the guys bought one of our tapes. So we got kind of lucky at the time that we sent it out to a few labels, but luckily a guy came and approached us, and then it kind of rolled for us. So I've come from the other side of it, where was kind of lucky. We flew under the radar on a major label for a long time, and we got away with a lot of stuff. I think we were that band that we got to do. We had the complete opposite experience on a major label to what a lot of bands have. We were in control of our own film clips, art, everything, and we to this day still do all that ourselves. Still signed to a major, but we had a reasonably good experience with it. But I learned so much now because a lot of the music I listen to is independent, stuff, and even this morning I learned a few things on the panel before because I'm a bit out of touch with it now because we haven't toured so much in the last couple of years. But it's seen a big change. But one thing that I've noticed is everyone's gone back to playing instruments again and putting on these DIY shows, which I felt that died for a few years. But that's starting to happen a lot more.
All right, Gerard, streaming's such a big thing now, isn't it?
Streaming, indeed it is. Indeed it is. I listen to, I might read something or hear something on the radio, and you go, "Oh, what's that?" And you use Spotify as a source. It's a source of, you can go, "Oh, what's this about?" And then you can delve into it a bit more deeper and that kind of thing. And that's kind of what I use it for.
Yeah.
I still go to record stores each week and I buy records and magazines, physical magazines.
Old school media.
Because it's what I'm comfortable with, what I enjoy. But look, I don't know. I mean, putting records out, there's so much stuff out there at the moment. It's really a matter of how you put yourself out there and make yourself stand out. And with the amount of stuff out there, I'm not sure how well you can do that. So I think it all comes back to the live performance, to be honest.
It's all about live performance, isn't it?
And that
was a key echo in the last panel.
It's all about that. And it's also about the quality of the songs. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that's complete rubbish. And it's just sort of, you look at it and you go, "Oh, yeah, this looks quite interesting," and all the rest, but there's nothing there.
Right.
And I think it's all about songwriting. And I think songwriting, live performance, and pretty much if you get those two things wrapped up, you're well and truly on the way. Good songs, a good live show, it's going to get you gigs. I heard someone earlier on talking about, how do you get gigs? And probably by being good, by having something that is of interest for other people. If you're boring as batshit, people aren't going to bother. They're going to walk off the street into the pub and see you. Not going to give a rat's ass about it. But if there's something going on and there's an energy and there's some sort of vitality about the whole thing, that's what makes it happen.
Arron,
it's show business.
It is show business. It is, yes, it is. Arron, you cultivated a bit of a scene down here with Legless and the bands that you put out and the bands that you play in.
Yeah.
You mentioned community before, but how important is community in a place like Mornington Peninsula, for example, and the surrounding areas?
Well, I guess touching on what he just said is that I guess everybody does start, and a lot of people are crap when they start. You know what I mean? And it's to get good at your craft, you need to play gigs with friends and stuff, and you can't always jump up without that support. And but when we started, we couldn't get it into gigs in the city. We felt very defeated by that, but we brought friends to gigs all the time, mastered our craft through doing local gigs and putting them on together. Started making friends with other people, and that's what actually made us a better band and a unit. Having that energy in front of us, it like inspired us, made us feel better about our gigs, and it's a stepping stone to being that band that's actually going to get attention when you break into the city environments and better bands, better lineups and stuff. You don't get there without creating that community, getting behind other friends' bands as well. So I don't know. There's I think that's the most important thing, to be able to actually get that energy exchange at a show. Sometimes you're not the best band, but if you can create some kind of vibe, that's what sort of pushes you to get better at your instrument, and you get that consistency. So, yeah.
Do you release a lot of your records through streaming services?
I do. It's mainly a record label, but everything goes up on streaming services. I use Bandcamp, which is a really good platform for physical stuff. Everything goes out distributed onto like Apple and Spotify, but as we all know, you don't really get much money back from that. It's that's a really good platform for people being able to reach your music if they hear you on the radio or something. But again, as he said, your live performance, perfecting your craft and creating momentum, teaming up with other bands and stuff like that. That's what's created our platform. It's using each other's energy and momentum to sort of push forward, put on good shows, expand your network, and yeah.
And you've done that without a lot of radio play as well.
Yeah, and I guess like that was another thing that defeated me. We never got much radio play in the first couple of years, but through putting on really good shows, like we ended up getting quite explosive as a band. It's a punk rock and roll kind of stuff, but it's not the most necessary thing. But it was like, because we created a force and we had friends coming to shows, people would see it and they're like, oh, who's that? And then slowly over time and committing to that, we got that attention, and things pay off when you commit to it and you stick with it. So
Asia, you've taken on the artist Queenie, and you've really had to, I guess, grow Queenie's fan base and I guess reach and profile from a grassroots level. For people who don't know what management is about, do you want to just like shed a little bit of light, like how you approached taking on Queenie, for example, and what you did in order to help her career along?
I just want to firstly speak to what Arron was just saying about building community and getting people to your shows, etc. The first time I saw his band was at a house party, a really good house party where there were 12 bands playing. They weren't getting paid for doing that. They were just celebrating our friend's birthday, and the community that was around that and the bands that came out of that experience, there's a lot of really huge bands that came from, that grassroots kind of energy. And you don't need money to do that. You can just go and put on a show, put in for the PA. You guys can do it. It's really important. Managing Queenie is somewhat the same with building community. She fortunately can play an amazing live show and can really get people's attention, and they love her, but to get them in the room is always the tricky part, and to like get to new areas, and as much as like telling your mate and go and see this girl, like it hits a level of where's the next fan base. So she's been in Melbourne for about 10 years and it feels good. She can fill a room there. But we are tapping into marketing, and we're looking at, we've invested in a really awesome PR person, and we are trying to get radio play, and a lot of what Arron said, again, it's so real and it doesn't mean everything to get on the radio anymore. But when she did get a bit of airtime on a Triple J morning show recently, like you just see the Shazams go up, people are listening, and that is also obviously a great way to get new listeners. But managing an artist is really hard work, and it does not pay any bills. So you've just got to really be passionate at the beginning. For me, I saw her play at the venue I book, and it was like me and another couple of guys book a street festival in Melbourne, Luliepalooza, and we had been dealing with some difficult people trying to book bands that we really liked, and some of the agents and managers we were dealing with actually turned us off booking their artists, and we were joking about like, let's let's manage someone. We could do it better than these people, which easier said than done. But yeah, we saw her and we were like, let's give it a go, because if these guys are, you know, short and aggressive, we can do this a bit nicer. And to be honest, building those connections and all the rest of it, like, it all really helps out.
Well, not to ask Gerard what he thinks about that comment. Can agents be a bit bullish, Gerard?
Oh, they can, because it's kind of their job to a degree. But there's also an element of, you know, you've got to be a nice person about the whole thing. But sometimes you need to deliver for your artist, and there are various methods in achieving that. And it depends who you talk to, I mean, you know. It really does.
Yeah. Not all agents and managers.
But at the end of the day, you know, the goal is to get the gig for your act.
Yeah.
And, you know, you might want X amount, and if you don't get X amount, you might settle for a little less. And if you can't settle for that little less and it's weighed down, well, then you maybe decide whether you need to bother or not. But, you know, it's a two-way street. And, you know, it's the old adage, you meet the same people on the way up as you do on the way down. So,
very true.
You know, these sort of small events, what you were saying before about house parties and things like that, I think they're essential. And I think, you know, if you're going to bother being in a band with your friends, it's probably your primary reason for doing it is probably just to have fun and hang out.
Yeah.
It's better than sitting on your ass at home doing nothing. So, you know, so go out there and have fun and play. And to my mind, when you're starting out, the money's irrelevant, and often the money can screw stuff up.
Sure.
Screw the vibe up. You know, it's about having fun and playing. And the more you play, invariably the better you will get. And as I was saying before, it's the live show thing. And
so how many artists do you look after?
I don't look after artists.
Okay,
I'm a promoter now. But back in the day when I was an agent, on my roster there'd be 20 acts, and you're always looking. You know, the radar's always up and you check your stuff out. One of the great resources we have in Melbourne is PBS and Triple R.
Uh-huh.
And those two things are key in that the people that, like last night I had it on while I was cooking dinner, and there were two girls on Triple R between like 5 and 8 or something like that. And they were playing all this insane shit that I'd never heard before. All local artists, a lot of Indigenous artists, singer-songwriters. And I'm like making fucking notes while I'm cooking tea and shit like that.
Wow, okay,
It's that good.
Yeah.
And there are numerous shows on both of those radio stations that showcase small up-and-coming local artists. And that's how it builds.
That's how it builds, yeah.
I think.
Arron, did you want to expand on what Asia and Gerard said?
It's actually a really cool point that Asia made about that party. It only just came to my mind then, but at that period, it was our friend Zaza's party, and we're all friends with really good bands, but we were all kind of nobodies at that time, really. It was just a friend's party. But from that night, Asia took a photo of which became a front cover of one of my band's albums. It's now gone to sell like almost over 10,000 records internationally and stuff. All those bands that were at that party were at a point where they weren't really recognised in that same position. Now, Asia's booking what I reckon is one of the best street festivals in Melbourne, some of the best bands, has gone through that whole process with us. So she's on one side of it where she's trying to get good fees and stuff and managing her band, and also booking an event that needs to make money. Every time I've dealt with Asia, she's been really fair with negotiating, and it's an environment where people trust her. And I've played Luliepalooza multiple times now, and it's been a really comfortable place. And I think that's where the industry can really benefit, is where you've grown together. All those bands have been successful now. All of them are getting looked after, and the festival's making money. There's no one person like walking away with their pockets full. And I think that's been one of the most beneficial things of that community aspect, is that we've all sort of grown together and, benefiting equally. So, whereas more often than not in the music industry, you hear that people work really hard and there's always someone lining their pockets. hear it a lot. So, but it was really cool. It's like it's not just the music, it's photography, artwork and stuff, teaming up with friends across the board, and that can give each other momentum, whether you're a poster designer or photographer, musician. So yeah.
Have you got anyone managing you, or do you have a friend
Myself,
that you manage everything, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just through those connections that it's just all happened through everyone supporting each other. So that was it's a really cool point. That,
Community, underlying community.
Yep, 100%.
Well, let's talk about Luliepalooza, because that's an event you've started from the ground up with people that you work with at Lulie. If someone was to send you, do you listen to everything that you get, like as far as when people submit their work?
Yeah, I definitely try to. I think that the biggest advice I can give is like get in early too. We book the festival, it's on in November, and it's generally pretty finalised by the lineup by February.
Wow.
Once we put out the save the date poster, I get a huge influx of, can we play this show? And like, I'm so sorry, you're like 6 months too late. But so that's a piece of advice I'd give. But yeah, like even booking bands at the bar, I think that I'm really fortunate. A lot of people want to play at Lulie, which is awesome. And I do get a lot of emails though. And so if you can, keep it short and like show me a picture of like people at your gig or something that'll get my attention, I guess. I'm probably not going to read a huge, big, PDF attachment or something. So yeah, give me some links and I will try my best I definitely listen to everything if you're giving me songs. A lot of people reach out that want to play that haven't given me any links to their music. So definitely give the links to the music.
Clint, going to ask you, running venues, tell me. We hear venues are doing it tough at the moment.
Yeah, venues are doing it really tough. Like I've just entered having a venue that has live music in it recently, and we've actually got Queenie playing there in next month, and it's been really interesting being on the other side of it because I've had a couple of shows there already. Like our first show, we got lucky, we had Tim Rogers play, and it was full, and I was working with Craig, who was a panelist before, and just learning how to promote and how to get people to these shows, because everyone whinges about not having enough live music on, and you put it on and trying to get people to the shows. But the hardest thing I'm finding early is how to promote it and how to get it out beyond your Instagram and your Facebooks, and because back in the day I'm just used to street press, flyers, word of mouth, that kind of stuff. So, I am listening quite hard today on how all that happens.
Yeah.
Because being on the other side is so different. Even, I had someone on there and I completely forgot to put a writer on there, and I was like, for years I've had one, So it's been quite an experience for me to do it, but I'm loving it. And because growing up on the peninsula, and going to shows, down here, like something for Kate, we played at Rosebud Memorial Hall years ago. Like I went and saw Stiff Richards for the first time out at Rye at the
PC Club,
like at Red Rose thing.
Yeah, Red Rose,
I remember going into that and being blown away by seeing this scene come back that I grew up on, and then even Singing Bird, what he's doing down, what Stu's doing down in Frankston is phenomenal, and I want to be a part of trying to bring that back to the peninsula. And it's hard because all my venues none of them have had the ability to do live music, yet I'm really strict on our playlist and playing a lot of local content all the time. We use Spotify, but we try and keep it as local and as we can. So trying to do my bit for it, but it's really hard. And it's hard, and because people aren't. It's a tough time at the moment, and charging for tickets because the artist does need to get paid. And like Katie was saying earlier on in the panel before, don't ask to be on the guest list. Turn up and support. Yeah. And one thing I'll say for new bands, and one thing we always did as a band years ago, is get your friends to come to the shows. And I'm sure you guys look at, if you can bring a crowd, that's the most important thing. Get your friends to come along to the shows, and be there and in the venues. Because as a venue owner, we rely on drink sales. We want people drinking and that kind of stuff to be able to put live music on, and but we also want to be supporting live music because it is hard to get that happening. So making sure your friends all come to the shows is really important. We did that back in the day. I remember playing a gig at the Art House years ago, and I think once we split the door fee, it was 50 cents each, but that didn't matter. Driven up, play the show, but a heap of my friends came along, and I still remember that gig so well, then you've just got to be playing as much as you can and bringing those mates along, and the venues will notice that, and as soon as they see more people coming to the shows, they'll keep putting you on, and you just, that's my little bit of advice for it.
Love that advice, love it. Gerard, going back to you, we're seeing a lot of festivals falling over. Just this week, we've just heard news that another festival's decided not to go ahead in Adelaide. The what's the name festival?
The government-funded Harvest Festival.
Harvest Rock. Thank you very much. What trends are shaping the future of live festivals? I mean, we're seeing Lulie doing really, really well on a grassroots level, but you deal with festivals all the time in your day-to-day. What's going on?
Well, we don't do festivals. I certainly don't. There's a couple that we do more that modern country stuff, which I don't get involved in. But yeah, there has been a stack of festivals not sort of existing anymore. There's probably a variety of reasons for it.
Can you put it down to anything?
Bad booking,
Right.
agents that want too much money, a lack of headliners. The lack of headliners is probably due to the fact that there's always been too many festivals. So you can't. I don't believe you can grow a headline act properly through playing festivals. You've got to get out there and do your own shows and build and build and build. We work with the Foo Fighters here, and I think their first trip they did a small festival. And I think ever since then, they've only ever done their own shows, and they've built up to a solid stadium act here. And they used to get offers all the time, come and play the big day out, and all that sort of, no, we're going to do our own thing. And that's how they do it. And there's a lot of other artists that come out and have only played festivals here, and probably now to diminishing returns. But there's also, I believe it's a bit of a cyclic sort of thing as well. There's a lot of festivals around that people used to go to every year, and now they've got kids, their kids are growing up, and then they're going, well, why am I going to go to the same festival my parents went to? What's the point of that? And so the older people, they don't want to go to that thing no more, and so the whole thing dissipates. But I think you'll find over the next few years, you'll see new ones emerging.
Yeah.
It'll start happening again.
Yeah.
Beyond the Valley, that goes off every year. And those guys know how to run a good event. It's in the middle of nowhere in Western Victoria now. I remember I drove my kid to Beyond the Valley in Gippsland, and it was insane. It was like, it took 4 hours to go down a 20-minute drive road. It was crazy. People everywhere, and it was a real vibe. And I think that's the specialness about, I think, of a festival. And maybe that's been lost a little bit these days with, people maybe sit back and just presume people are going to turn up and, I'll just put these guys on and book these guys and it'll just happen. And it doesn't anymore. You've got to work for it and you've got to be smart about it. But conversely, all the shows that we're doing with artists who are headlining in arenas, theatres and halls, they're all doing really, really well. Most of them are selling out. And the artists get to play a full set. They're playing 90-minute, 2-hour shows. If those guys were playing an event, a festival, it'd be a 45, 50-minute set. It's truncated. And I think fans would prefer to see their favourite act playing that longer set.
Yeah.
In a controlled environment where it's their production. There's video, there's sound and lights. It's all tuned up to how it needs to be, as opposed to being in the middle of the field at 5 in the afternoon and hoping it doesn't rain and all this shit. There's so many variables. But when you plonk an act in the middle of an enclosed space, that's it. You're in for it, and it's great. So it's a different sort of thing, but they'll always be around. And I think you guys have that thing at the racecourse here, the Mornington racecourse, like a couple of those events every summer, and that just goes gangbusters from what I know. So there's always something.
Yeah. Has anyone got any questions at this point about releasing music, putting on shows? Great. Yes, up the back there. Yes.
Do you want me to just say it?
Yeah, yell it out. Go on.
So in regards to releasing music, obviously you've got all your streaming platforms, and then you can utilise your websites. Do you guys use websites, or do you use more streaming sources?
Yes, I think that as much as I don't really think that many people are going to your website first, it's probably not how they're going to find you. It's definitely good to have that so that if people go looking for you, it's another opportunity that might pop up. For example, so SEO, like the metadata on the back of your website, so important. If people hear your song and then they Google you and they can't find you, what's the point of them hearing it? So yeah, definitely have a website, even if it's simple and like a free one. Definitely have it. Recently, Queenie got this incredible opportunity that her record label knows a guy and gave her some huge billboards. So her face was on in these really busy intersections in Melbourne, and her name's Queenie, which is like, you know, if you type in Queenie, there's a couple of artists called Queenie. There's one in Sydney. There's Queen the band pops up. So we actually went with Kill Queenie because that's her Instagram handle. Her website is killqueenie.com. So we thought we'll use a word that will pop, you know, a couple of words together that will ensure that you can find her. Because, yeah, you might get this awesome opportunity, but if people can't find you, then what's the point? So definitely have a website, Linktree, or like there's a few different options, but on your Instagram or your Facebook, you can put a link where people can click and open up all of the different places to find your music and where to stream it, where to buy it. If you have merch or records, like definitely make sure it's easy to find because, yeah, merch is so important today. Playing live shows and merch, like that's the way you're going to make money. So, yeah, make it easy for people to find.
And sorry, in regards to actual streaming, what would you say is the best avenue at the moment? Spotify, Bandcamp?
Yeah, I mean, 100% Spotify is where the majority of people are, but you should just have it everywhere. Like when you're releasing a song, put it on every single platform that you can put it on because, you know, Joey might have only Apple Music and he might be your number one biggest fan in England who knows 4,000 people. So make sure you're on all of the places that you can get on. Definitely Spotify is like where people are listening, but yeah, why not upload it to everywhere?
What's your band's name?
Modulation.
And have you got releases? Have you got songs?
Some demos, but no actual.
What are you doing with the demos?
Demos, just hand them out to venues, to event organisers. Yeah.
Any traction yet?
A little bit here and there.
Yeah.
Not too much. Being a teacher, it's pretty hard to fit in all those extra hours.
Are you sending them via Bandcamp? How are you sending them out?
It's mainly via Apple Music, YouTube, and Spotify at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just interesting to hear.
Okay. Arron, have you got anything to say?
Yeah, definitely. I think definitely think about where your band sits and what's appropriate as well. Websites and stuff don't necessarily, they might not be necessary for the genre or the industry that you're in. Like, for instance, I'm like in a lot of punk, garage, rock and roll stuff. No one's looking up websites for that stuff. Bandcamp is everything, people buying records. So think about what's appropriate for the style of music and the people that are listening to similar bands. Having a Linktree attached to a social media account, sharing stuff from gigs and stuff like that, that's been my biggest avenue. I don't really like social media, but that's just where people are at the moment. So an Instagram page, stuff like that. Facebook's dead. I don't even bother with that. But yeah, Instagram, stuff like that, and yeah, having links to your Spotify. But there's a lot of back-end aggregator, is that the right thing? Like DistroKid, but there's companies that will actually send your stuff out one place that you can get it to all streaming platforms across the world. So there's Spotify and Apple Music, but there's a lot of countries that have other apps that are actually more popular. So you've got that, they'll send it out to like 100 different things from one avenue. So yeah, look into things like that as well, because that'll just cover all streaming platforms. Get your stuff on Bandcamp, especially if you're a band. That's most people buying records, merch and stuff through there. And then if they like associated bands, it'll link through to different bands that are associated with your style as well. So yeah.
Every question gets a t-shirt. You're definitely getting a t-shirt.
I've already got one.
Oh, you've already got one? give them to one of your students. Is he a good teacher?
He's in a band.
Yes.
You guys could have your time again coming up, probably more you two guys. What would you do differently?
That's a good question. Clint, I'll start with you. What would you do differently if you had your time again?
I'd remember it. It all went really quickly. What would I do differently? I'm really happy with the way we did a lot of things. I don't know. You got me, Chris, for that one.
Stumped you.
You got an idea? Yeah.
I actually wouldn't do anything different.
Yeah.
I feel really grateful at the moment. I took things slow. Like I was saying about like meeting Asia at parties and doing things that it felt like pushing shit uphill for a few years there. But the strength that I've created with our friends, we're talking about festivals not working anymore, and that old guard. It's like of festivals and stuff. The relevance I don't think is there. People are paying $400 or $500 for shows, and I've got these friends that I can put gigs on with now. You can have your mates on a show and guarantee to sell it out because that community's there. And it's just that hard work over time. But I'm really happy with where I am, and it's because there's those strong foundations that we didn't jump above our level as a band. We actually grew and created solid foundations, and people like Asia putting on street festivals that. We're talking about headlines before. She's getting lineups that, like, the entire lineup is stacked with good bands that could all equally be that mid-tier. Instead of getting one band that will charge 70 grand and then not being able to pay the rest of the bands well, the whole lineup is like really good mid-tier, sort of like borderline headliners, and that's the community that we're in, and it's. Most of the shows are guaranteed to have a packed room, and it feels good when you're in that situation. So, yeah,
Where does
that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Where does most of your income come from, Arron?
Jeez, is anyone making much money? Shows, bums in seats, or at shows, just t-shirts. Everything ebbs and flows. It's a bit more about paying attention to what. Some shows you have heaps of tickets and people having a great time, and then sometimes they're drunk and had the best time and don't even look at the merch desk. And but they're the people that go away from the show and are blown away and will come to 10 shows in a row because they had such a good show. And you might have that that pass-on effect where you're guaranteed to sell tickets for anything that you put on. You might not sell T-shirts for a show, but you'll sell out each show after that. So I don't know. It's a mix. Yeah.
Any questions here?
I was going to say, how do you get people to sort of buy your music as opposed to just streaming it? Like, how do you find the best way of doing that these days?
Like physical sales versus
sales
streaming?
Versus just streaming, because a lot of people just streaming, but you don't make much money from Spotify.
I've taken probably a bit of a devil's advocate. Like, I've taken a really opposing avenue to the music industry to a lot of people. I think the internet and stuff is really saturated. There's so much advertising and crap on the internet these days. I literally, when I get the physical record, I take a photo of it on my coffee table, and it's sent. My record label to a lot of people is doing pretty well at the moment, but I run it out of my garage at my partner's mum's house. So like, it's I've kept my costs down and kept things sincere, and people realise that there's not a heap of marketing, paid ads. People don't want to get pushed heaps of shit. Like, there's so much stuff on the internet these days that they can see that it's from somewhere real. I pack the records and I send it to them, and I think that has worked for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but keeping that sense of direct to the consumer, I guess. When people have come to shows, I always talk to people. I try to network and make people feel welcome. There's so many punters that come up drunk at a show, and bands will be too cool, they'll fob them off. It's like saying hi and just engaging people and being kind goes so far these days, because there's just so much noise and nonsense in the world that, a simple hello and shaking someone's hand or thanking them for coming to a show, it really does, go a long way. So I don't know, that's my experience.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
I think we've all kind of touched on it, and what you're saying now is like that it's just so important to make the connection with people in all of the ways. Like, big festivals aren't working because, it's a lot of the same lineups that you see and the same bands and whatever, but like you were just saying before, Gerard, about people being able to, sell out rooms for their own shows. With Luliepalooza, we've decided to really, because it's the only way for me, go super community vibes and ensure that everyone's involved that we work with. And that has created a brand that means that people are coming because, not necessarily because of all the bands, they're obviously, but they're coming, they know, Like we
The
just
brand,
the
Luliepalooza. Like you said, as soon as you announced, say the date, you have bands, because they know exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yet, like OK Motels, I don't know if any of you know about, is a festival that happens in Charlton in regional Victoria, like 3.5 hours northwest of Melbourne. And Kate Berry, who organises that, she's created an experience that connects so greatly with people that she literally doesn't announce a lineup and it sells out before that now.
Can you just expand on what OK Motels is about?
So OK Motels is a little festival that happens in a hotel motel in literally, like, it's the middle of nowhere. There's a strip of maybe, like, there's 3 pubs and 20 houses, maybe a little bit more than that, but it's really in the middle of nowhere. And she's taken over this hotel and put incredible lighting in it and always booked, really creative lineups. A lot of the time she'll, find a band that hasn't played in 10 years and get them back on the stage. Or she really, it's the attention to detail. You walk in and it's the artwork and the instead of booking someone to do a Welcome to Country, she's booked this guy who does this, half a 45-minute incredible performance. And it's those little things. It's not just like ticking boxes. She's like really thinking about it. And it's over time created this incredible festival. And talk about community, like the entire town is so into it. When you go to a small town and they've put on a festival and the locals are like, you're making the coffee shop full and get out of here. It's not like that at all. These people come in, you're all amazing. The community spirit is insane. She goes around and makes sure that everyone's happy, everyone knows exactly what's going on, and it's the groundwork that you've got to lay to create something. You can't just put things on anymore. You've got to really think about it. And if you guys haven't seen what she's doing, you should definitely look into OK Motels. She does them around occasionally too. I think she's doing one in Queensland at some point. There's occasionally one in Geelong, but if there's anyone from the council here, you should talk to her about doing something here. It is like an insane, awesome experience.
Clint or Gerard, do you want to talk about anything that's raised there?
No, but that OK Motels thing's outrageous. It's fantastic, and it's such a vibe. It's got the food element to it as well.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I mean, there's no reason why a community like this, which has clearly got a thing going here there's clearly a lot of artists that live around here, why something even along the lines of what Lulie does can't happen here. And it's about,
Clint would be the man to speak to,
Humdinger.
I'd say.
it's probably everyone here.
Luliepalooza.
Yeah.
But it's probably a situation where you have like a whole bunch of people coming together to make it happen. The more the merrier, and the more chance it has of being a success. And it's a good thing. And that's where all the good shit comes from.
Well, I'd like to ask our music teacher, what are the things, you've obviously got some budding musos here. What are the things that you're receiving feedback on, having taught? What are some of the things that your students come across in their musical pathway?
Yeah, number one is how to get the exposure. So I've got one kid who's not here who is really interested in getting the exposure, but doesn't know how to make that first step. So I've shared, networking is very important, obviously, especially these days, developing those connections. If you don't have those connections, then you're not going to have the avenue, the gigs coming in, flying in. And obviously, having the skill, like what you guys are saying as well. If you don't have the skill, you don't have the presence, no one's going to want to come and see you, or you're not going to get the gigs. It's just going to die dead. But these guys, learning a lot of performing skill. It's all about developing that skill and getting out and performing as often as you can to develop those performance abilities and that confidence.
Showbiz.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the song on top of that. Sometimes you just need a good song, right, Clint?
That's all you need.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? I mean, you were fortunate enough to play with possibly one of the best songwriters in the country, Paul Dempsey, in Something for Kate.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty lucky with that. Like, I always put it down to, if you're good enough, like if your song's good enough, you'll get found. I've always run with that. Like, with us, I think, we got, the song will get heard eventually, but you've just got to, you've got to work it and you've got to be out there. But good songwriters will always get found. I sort of stand by that. It might take a bit of time, but it will happen.
Now, when you were going to school on the peninsula, which was, where'd you go to school?
Padua.
Yeah. Did you know? Could you see Paul's songwriting abilities then? Did you
Yeah,
know?
it was kind of weird because I didn't know the first year I wasn't in any classes with him in year 11. I just saw the tall, gawky kid who had a guitar who walked around and I was playing sports. And then the next year I had every class with him. And then I got really lucky sitting next to him because we just discovered a love of punk rock together and we both loved the same band. And he asked me to play in this Battle of the Bands at Padua and we covered a Dinosaur Jr. song, an LFX song, and a Nirvana song, and came last. We lost.
And where
our
are
bands,
those other
but-
bands now, I ask?
Well, the band that won played Enter Sandman, and it was quite funny. But that started off our thing together, and I got really lucky. But I think the first song he ever wrote, I was like, this is great. Like, this could be good. Like, not everyone's cup of tea. I know that. I know we don't. People either love it or hate it. But yeah, I always knew he could write songs, and he always wanted to be. He was always, I'm going to be a musician, and I'm like,
Driven.
I'm going to be a nurseryman, and I started off an apprenticeship and then had to give that up and follow with it. But I was always a believer that the songs were great. I thought they were, and we worked really hard. Like we started off on Monday nights at the Punters Club, and then Tuesday night. Like we worked our way up, and we just played non-stop. And I was driving up from the peninsula. I'd be working all day down here on a Christmas tree farm, and then I would get in the car at 6 o'clock, drive up to Melbourne, play a gig on a Monday night, get home at 3, get up for work, and just work it and work it and work
Dedication.
it. Yeah, and it was great, but that's the whole thing. You've got to work hard. You've got to play. We were playing in front of no one at the start, and a lot of people don't see that with something to Kate. They just see
They
where
thought
we
it was
were.
overnight success.
No, we worked really hard, and doing all ages shows, that was a really big thing. It was a venue in Noble Park. We'd go and play out there all the time, but I think it's hard for kids these days to put on shows because, to put on all ages shows can be hard. But I think we're all trying to change that. And once again, harking back to Frankston, like what Stu's doing at Singing Bird is amazing. He's doing it under the radar quite well at the moment. I don't think he wants people to know too much about it. But every time I speak to him, but I think what he's doing is great, and I really want to try and do something like that down here. But it is very hard. But you've just putting on the house parties and so on. You guys were talking about before. That we played a few of those, and that's really important. And word of mouth. It's the only way because you can't just rely on just social media shit. That I don't know enough about TikTok anymore. Apparently that's the new thing, and I'm like I refuse to be part of that one. But apparently that's where it's going, and it's kind of sad. But yeah, just getting out there and playing, like walking up here this morning and watching 3 dudes with a trumpet walking down the street. I was like, this is great. It's starting to happen, but then you get, but it's Mornington's such a sleepy town, and trying to get people excited about this sort of stuff. I've been trying with Wowee Zowee down there. Like we're trying to now we're getting shut down, but trying to create a scene that I spent 5 years building down there, and seeing all these kids come along and like. You were saying before, I talk to people all the time. I find other people's stories way more interesting than mine. And I like to know how people got here and how they started a band and all that sort of stuff. And, there's so many of you that there's a few kids I recognised earlier on that come into the bar. But there's a lot out there. You just got to work hard,
I'm speaking of working hard in the early days, I got one of your cassette tapes in the very, very early days, which I still have to this day that I think fetches about $150 on eBay. So very, very. You got one as well?
You got one?
Should get Clint to sign it.
Mine's worth
Yeah,
nothing.
there you go. Just something tangible like that I've kept forever,
Yeah.
and I'm never going to get that away. And it's interesting. The band that I'm wearing today is Loose Lips. They're a young band, just 4 or 5 gigs in, and they're giving out cassettes of their songs. So it's interesting that that's coming back now because we were listening to it on the way up here. So interesting. Any comments or questions here?
They're definitely back.
Yeah.
I've got one. I'll try and
Okay.
phrase it properly. I'm just wondering, when talking about releasing albums, etc., and you're using us, like we're using YouTube, and so far we've put 3 videos on YouTube with not much success, a bit of success, but we're putting out an album, and I'm thinking, well, if you're putting out an album and you're putting every track on YouTube, then where's your album type thing? So what do? Do you just put snippets out and say stay tuned for the next snippet and then launch the album at the end, or
Do you
I'm not good with that one.
anyone want to
where do I
take
go
this?
with this? Am I-
Start with
No,
Arron.
I understand. It's hard to answer as well because there is no right answer. I don't think.
How do you protect it?
Protect it.
Well, it's a bit of a segue, but a friend of mine's an artist, a visual artist, and she put a piece out on social media, which was taken over by someone in the Middle East somewhere. And they claimed it as their art. And
the music? The music?
Was it was
a piece of art. Oh, okay.
And she had a massive fight to regain her art. She had to get people like us saying, yes, we saw her paint this. We saw her actually paint this. And
so I guess I couldn't speak to that. That's a bit over my head. But in the means of releasing stuff, I always believe that what feels right. I don't know what kind of music and stuff that you're doing, but yeah. So releasing singles, having a couple of singles coming out and then leading up to a package, an album is like a pretty traditional way of going about things. But it depends how you want it to present. And I always think authenticity at the end of the day is doing things for yourself, and how you think it should come out is the way that's going to feel right for you. That's going to be way more receivable from someone than something feeling forced. So I don't think there's any rules to how you actually go about releasing something. Sometimes you can just put an album out there. If something feels like a package to you and you don't want to separate it, then put it out as a package. But if you've got a bit of a story or a run of songs that you feel like need to come out in a row to lead up and introduce people to it, then go for that. Like, there is no rules. It is a hard thing because it depends what style of music, the people that are interacting with it. But I always think that believing yourself, and it's what you were talking on like even with gigs and stuff, not everything is for everybody. But playing to 5 people, you don't know who's in the room. Like that doing things for yourself, again, if you're enjoying playing to 3 people, everybody's played to 3, 5 people crowds, but you don't know who is going to be in that crowd as well. So just making those steps and not getting defeated by that question is like, you just got to make a decision and go with what feels right, and that will lead you to knowing what works for you long term. So I think that's the best I can answer that. So yeah.
Got a question down there, yes.
A small statement.
Yes.
I worked in the theatre industry, and one woman one night did a 2.5-hour performance in 30-odd degrees. Was the head critic from The Age, and she got nearly a page and a half review, the best review, and launched it.
Wow,
that's amazing.
So it's persistence, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got any questions over here?
Can I ask a question?
Oh, please.
Where are you guys, the kids in the room, the younger people, where do you go and see shows? Are you going to shows?
Yeah.
Tay. Do you guys have any interest in seeing local bands perform, or do you love to just go and see a big stadium show? Gotcha. Yeah.
Massive.
Yeah.
Yes, Beck.
I have to say something. We just launched as part of a music initiative a new event called Rockers, which is an all-age, underage gig, 4th Sunday of every month at Soundbar in Rosebud. Live, local, young, emerging band.
And how do people get involved with Raucous if they want to be part of it?
Wow.
Okay.
Yay.
Yeah, definitely. You can go and talk to Beth. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah? You want to ask a question? Okay.
Following on that, and being a mother of an under 18 drummer, we actually just have to take false ID and take him into over 18 gigs everywhere we go.
Good on you. Good mum.
No, because they're over 18, so we took him to Queens of the Stone Age, Motor, over 18.
Is that one of yours?
Used to be.
Over 18.
Fucked over.
What was the one we went and saw? Over 18.
What a cool mum you have.
Yeah.
The Breeders, over 18.
Oh, yeah, that was a good show.
My age.
Yeah. Right?
So we don't have, other than Soundbar, which is an awesome venue, now Bar Par's closed.
So if you sign up to Arts and Culture, here's a recruit, sign up to Betty Socials for the newsletter for Arts and Culture. The 23rd of August, again, Singing Bird, is Sledgehammer Honey, play local guys from Mornington Secondary, are playing Singing Bird, all age 100 to Enrich, who are just
Great band.
who are Bloody Norris, there you go, Max's band. Well, Max is with Bloody Norris, everyone.
Hey, Max.
Yeah. Also doing our sound.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They are out there. You just
Right.
got to know where to find
Clint, are you going to be addressing the under 18s issue, or can you, or is it not worth visiting as a venue owner?
No, I do want to find out what I can do, what we can do. Like I think for memory, all you need to do is cover up the alcohol behind the bar.
Sure.
But yeah, it's definitely something I want to look at doing.
And Gerard, as someone who puts on shows or deals with artists that want to put on shows, are you mindful of the under 18 crowd or the all ages crowd?
Yeah, most of the stuff we do, being in arenas and theatres and all age venues, there are some that you put through when you're growing them. You're putting them through pubs and clubs, and you can say, I want to make an all age show at this particular venue, and straight away the rent triples.
The rent triples.
Rent triples, and all the costs
go up. Is that
because the club doesn't make any money
right
out of booze, which is what it's there for.
Right. Okay.
So you can sort of see why. On occasion, you might be able to do a deal and say, listen, I do a shit ton of stuff with you. You got to, blah blah blah.
Sure.
You can hustle it, but invariably, it's mostly all age shows. But that's great. What's going on here with all those sorts of things, and providing a platform for local artists to play, and that's really how it gets going. It's wonderful. It's really good to hear.
We've got 5 minutes left. Have we got one last question or anything you want to ask? Yeah.
So I've been singing with a few people, like teenage dads down here that are awesome. Amy Francis speaks to you today. Is it worth releasing an album online, do you think, or is it worth doing the individual single thing and trying to hopefully get song by song on different playlists? And then maybe doing your cassette of an album when you're doing your live shows and everyone's crowds it.
Just from a music journalism point of view, I might just pop in here. I get a lot of emerging artists asking me that very same question. I say don't release an album to nobody. That's what I say. Build. I mean, the common goal here is build up your live following. Really build it up. And if you've got one song that's really killer, release that. Maybe, yes, on the cassette or a 4-track cassette, 2 songs on each side, just a 10-minute cassette. It's no point putting something out into the ether and hoping and praying that someone will pick it up if no one, if you've got playing to 5 people at a time. It's all about that building, that community that Arron talked about, getting known by band bookers, the followings. I think that's my 10 cents. Anyone want to add to that?
What happened to CDs?
It's coming back. It's coming back.
It goes in cycles. Everything really does. But I'm talking cassettes right now. We're on the cassette tip at the moment. So I'm sticking to that. Do you want to add anything to that?
I just reckon that like most of our bands that I've released are all lead up to an album. So I don't think it is dead. And I think you can utilise those singles to bring attention to the release that you've worked so hard to do. Not being rude, but I disagree that albums are dead. We've had heaps of success with albums, and we've just utilised those key songs and live performances. Do a single launch. You know what I mean? Release a single, maybe do a video clip, engage your crowd, do a bunch of shows, another single, run a shows, another video clip, something like that, and lead up to that album and utilise that. Don't leave too big a gaps. Get the album finished and have a finished product. Have some artwork that relates to the next bit of artwork that comes out, something to engage people and some consistency, and you can still do albums. You don't have to. It's as I said before, it's like what feels right for you, but I think albums are still there. I think completing a package feels really good as an artist as well. You're not just doing like little snippets. It's like, no, I've achieved this. There's artwork for it. You can get it pressed as a record, a CD, whatever you like. And different genres are going to respond better to different formats of releasing as well. Vinyl's worked really good for me. I haven't gone into tapes yet. Tapes are a lot more easy to get done. Geez, pressing vinyl's a nightmare, but tapes are easy, like they're cheap, so that might be the one thing that works for you. But don't give up on albums.
No.
Or EPs. Like you can do 4 or 5 track EPs as well, and release a couple of singles and then the 4 tracks at the end of the month or something. So.
I felt like online show and buying our EPs, we're listening and hearing the intended story.
Yeah.
But those are the ones that are exchanging cash and, oh my gosh, we just heard you, can we buy it? And then we get that feedback. But online,
That's why I like the
There is so
physical
much
format.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
physical is
Couple of
just great.
digital singles leading up to an album that also has physical. That's how I've always rolled, and it's yeah.
Can I add to?
Yeah.
I think that the way of the world is online, unfortunately, and I totally agree with everything just said. But if you can release a few songs, the reach that you can get to online is hundreds of thousands of millions. Whereas if you're just relying on the people that are coming to your shows, like I'm not sure how you get those new listeners. I think putting things online is really important, unfortunately. But if you can make that connection with people with your free music online that they're streaming, they will buy your stuff eventually. I also just want to add to the album thing, like I think I'm not an artist and I don't make music, but for the to speak on behalf of the artist I manage, she really, it is art for her. And the first album that she's about to release, like she needed to have it as a package, and it needed to be closed before she can begin starting the next lot. But yeah, absolutely different for everybody, and it's not the same. Yeah, it's just not the same. But I think for her that was really important. And also in saying that, there is much more exposure you'll get with press and with like publications that you want to, when you want people to like listen to your music, the chances of them listening to your individual singles that you're putting out is not so great, and the chance of them listening to your album and writing a piece about your album and reviewing it is so much greater. So I'm really excited for her to release the album because I know that it'll get a lot more attention than individual singles will. Again, not for everybody, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, and it's about once you've built that community and you're ready to do it, you'll know when the time's right, artistically or professionally. I think, yeah.
Great question, by the way.
Yes, t-shirts all around for the question askers. Thank you so much for your attention this morning. We are going to break for lunch now, which is at God's Kitchen, catered lunch, which of course is that way. And they'll book a hot seat if you haven't already, if there's some spots left, and come and say hi to these people too. Let's give them a round of applause. Arron Mawson, Asia Quinn, Clint Hyndman, and Gerard.
Thanks, Joe.